It's July 6, 2025. General Mkhwanazi is about to ignite a firestorm at a Durban press briefing. His focus is on some of the most powerful people in South Africa. The man had been watching the rot within the state, and he is about to set everything on fire. But how did we get here? To understand how one man became the John Wick of the Rainbow Nation, we have to go back to the beginning. From his early days in Edendale to his stand against a powerful syndicate, this is the story of a man who vowed to die for his badge. Mkhwanazi Sibusiso Mkhwanazi was born on February 5, 1973. Growing up in Edendale, a historic township in Pietermaritzburg in the province of KwaZulu-Natal in the 1970s and 80s, he faced a South Africa torn by apartheid. With Edendale a hotbed of socio-political struggle, violence and poverty were daily realities, but they forged the young man's resolve to make a difference. From an early age, he showed leadership and a passion for justice, rooted in his Zulu heritage. At age 20, he joined the South African Police Service as a student constable. It was a time of transition, with South Africa nearing its first democratic election. Mkhwanazi started in public order policing, a gritty role managing protests and unrest. His discipline and drive stood out, setting the stage for a rapid rise. He later earned a national diploma in police administration and a B.Tech degree in policing. The man was balancing education with his demanding job. In public order policing, he honed skills in crowd control and crisis management, navigating the volatile post-apartheid era. By 2005, at age 32, he had earned a coveted spot as head of the Special Task Force, an elite SAPS tactical unit known as the Takis. The Special Task Force selection process is brutal, with an 85% attrition rate, but Mkhwanazi not only qualified as an operator, the man rose through the ranks to command the force. As the Special Task Force head, he oversaw the National Air Wing, National Intervention Unit, and cross-border operations, managing everything from bomb disposal to tactical response. His leadership transformed the STF into a feared force against organized crime. This period cemented Mkhwanazi's reputation as a no-nonsense cop, a trait that would define his later battles. In October 2011, the now 38-year-old Mkhwanazi was appointed as acting National Police Commissioner by then-President Jacob Zuma. He replaced Becky Thila, who was sacked over a 1.78 billion rand lease scandal. This did not sit well with other generals older than him who thought they deserved the position more than him. The resentment from the start meant the general was now working under intense pressure, and his next moves were not about to make life any easier for him. His defining moment came in 2012 when he suspended crime intelligence boss Richard Ndluli. Richard was a Zuma ally, and his suspension showed how the new acting commissioner had no loyalties to no one but the law, willing to go against every rogue cop, including those with ties to the man who appointed him. Richard was charged with kidnapping, assault, and corruption. This arrest made Mkhwanazi a public hero, but it also enraged Zuma's circle, as they could see how the relentless cop would potentially disrupt their rogue system. The rogue elements knew it was a matter of time before it was their turn to face the law, so they used their powers in parliament to push for his dismissal. Zuma's government targeted him for his independence, sidelining him to lesser posts in the police where he had less influence. But this move not only motivated the man, it also showed his willingness to risk his career for integrity. That same year, his brother Scambuzo, a 32-year-old constable, died mysteriously in a ditch after a clash with fellow officers, and this personal loss deepened the general's resolve. During this same turbulent period in his career, he was accused of killing an innocent man and halting a crime intelligence probe. These claims were never proven but used to question his record. Powerful forces were now trying by all means to bury the man before he could expose the system. His suspension of the crime intelligence boss put him at odds with the police minister, and this led to him being released from his position and given a less prominent role as Division Commissioner for Human Resource Development. This role focused on training and development within the SAPS, a far less operational and less high-profile position. But his relentless drive was not about to be slowed down by few obstacles. You see, although Mkhwanazi was demoted to lower positions within the police, he managed to work his way up, and in 2018, he was appointed as the police commissioner in KwaZulu-Natal. This was done by the new administration led by President Cyril Ramaphosa, with Becky, who somehow managed to become the police minister besides being previously accused in the nearly 2 billion rand lease scandal. The man took the role as commissioner during one of the most turbulent times in the province. In July 2021, Jacob Zuma was arrested, and this led to unrest in the nation. Mkhwanazi led 550 arrests and seized 24,300 tires used in protests during this period. The protests led to 300 deaths, and this led to a clash between the commissioner and the Minister of Defense. The police had requested for military support in protecting key infrastructure like harbors and airports, but the ministry never delivered. The defense minister then blamed the police for the deaths. But the commissioner challenged this view, citing weaknesses in South Africa's security apparatus, pointing to lack of coordination and support from higher authority during crisis moments. His stand against the Minister of Defense showed how he was not afraid to point out inconsistencies, even in the most powerful spaces with potential ramifications, the same scenarios which had gotten him demoted earlier. Mkhwanazi's probe into the murder of rapper Kiernan Forbes and Tibbs was the first glimpse to the public on how effective the general was in solving complex crimes. You see, after the brutal murder of AKA in 2023, many civilians feared that the hitmen would never be caught, mostly after a whole year without substantial updates from the SAPs. But what many didn't know was that the general was hard at work. The team assigned to the case had managed to make the first arrest as early as April 2023, just a month and a half after the assassination. The arrest was kept quiet to avoid tipping off other suspects. The man nabbed in Belhar in Cape Town was described as the organizer of the firearms and vehicles used in AKA's murder. 6 months later, on October 24, 2023, police arrested the second suspect. The man was the spotter linked to a separate murder in Durban's Berea area. This man had watched AKA's movements from outside Wish restaurant, feeding intel to the hitmen. Police held him on the unrelated murder charge, a tactic to keep him in custody without alerting the others. On December 14, 2023, the third suspect, who was one of the shooters, was apprehended. He was linked to an unrelated murder in the south of Durban. This suspect was one of the triggermen who fired on AKA and Tibbs, and his arrest marked a major step towards breaking the case. He was detained on a parallel charge to avoid spooking the remaining suspects. Then came the fourth and fifth suspects, who almost disrupted the carefully curated strategy. On February 24, 2024, police scored a double hit in Eswatini. Two brothers identified as a shooter and a spotter were arrested in a rented hideout. They were wanted for other murders in Berea, but their roles in AKA's killing were clear. One had fired the fatal shots while the other tracked AKA's movements from the airport and inside Wish restaurant. Mkhwanazi worked through Interpol and the National Prosecuting Authority to secure their arrest. But everything was compromised when a media post from Eswatini broke the news linking the two to AKA's assassination. The general knew the force had to work overtime to catch the remaining suspects, who were now alert and on the run. The final arrest came on February 27, 2024. The coordinator of the hit turned himself in with his lawyer's help. This suspect was the mastermind who paid and organized the hit squad. The handling of this case by the general put a spotlight on the man as people recognized his efforts in a country plagued by police inconsistencies and failures. But his most prolific exploits were yet to come. You see, the man had spent 3 decades in the police force, and through all these years, his fight against powerful rogue elements within the state persisted. And everything exploded on the 6th of July, 2025. Mkhwanazi called a press briefing at the SAP's provincial headquarters in Durban. Journalists and media platforms started to speculate on the potential reasons for the briefing. But no one had a definite idea. The general began to address the nation, and what came out of the man's mouth rocked the nation to its core. He announced he was opening a criminal case, and the case was against the current Minister of Police. The general insisted that the minister was a protective shield for some of the most dangerous kingpins in South Africa, mostly the king of the Gauteng underworld, Vusi Kat Matlala. The minister had gone as far as disbanding the political killings task force investigating the kingpin. An investigation into the assassination of DJ Somebody had been moved to Pretoria, where it was stalled. This was done to protect figures involved. The minister and his circle would receive favors from the kingpin with expensive dinners and lavish stays at Matlala's luxury homes. This unprecedented protection led to chaos in the streets as the kingpin felt untouchable. But it was all set on fire by the general as he exposed the shady dealings with the briefing. President Cyril Ramaphosa was forced to suspend the Minister of Police, announcing a probe into the matter, and the people involved in the assassination of the DJ was charged and arrested. The story of the fearless general continues as the probe into the minister is yet to be concluded by the President of South Africa. His contract as the Police Provincial Commissioner of KwaZulu-Natal expires in December 2025.